my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and as you can probably tell by my voice, I am just getting over a cold, so I'm sorry I sound a little off, a little scratchy, but you know, the show must go on. Hopefully you can tolerate this raspy voice for a couple videos because I'm probably gonna sound like this for a while. I am very happy to finally be bringing you the final installment in my Zodiac inspired BYOP series. I took a long break from this series, so I will link the previous videos below, and I'm also going to give you a refresher on what we're doing with this series. Basically, astrology and the zodiac signs have been a huge trend in beauty this year. We've seen tons of collections from the Kathleen Lights and ColourPop collaborations, the BH Cosmetics palettes, several other makeup beauty related products that are based on astrology. I'm not somebody that has really closely followed astrology, and I realized when all these beauty products started coming out, this just isn't something that I really know a lot about. So I decided to do some research into the different zodiac signs, the different characteristics and colors and flowers and everything that's associated with each sign, and then use what I learned from my research to create different ColourPop palettes based on all the different signs. So I decided to group them by their elements. I've already released my videos on the fire sign, water sign, and earth signs. So the last one left today is the air sign palette. I know there's so much more that goes into each person's birth charts with sun signs and moon signs and rising signs and all that. I didn't really go that far into it. I just looked at each of the basic zodiac signs and took it from there. Everybody's got to start somewhere, and this is where I started. So this palette is the air sign palette, and the three air signs are Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. I was surprised that Aquarius was not a water sign since it's a water bearer, but apparently it's an air sign. My palette is made up of 3 rows, each with 4 shadows. So it's a 12 pan palette, and each row represents one of the air signs. So Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius in this case. For all of my zodiac palettes, I tried to do an even split between mattes and shimmers. And for this palette, since it's been so long since my previous zodiac videos went out, there have been quite a few new shades introduced and old ones discontinued. So I tried to make sure that this palette contained shades that ColourPop currently has available on their site. Whether or not they're sold out is another story, but these are all shades that, as far as I know, at this very moment in time, have not been discontinued. I am going to show you eye looks for each one of the signs using these shades that I chose, but first let's just go through my thought process on why I chose the shades that I chose for each sign. Let's start with the top row, which is the Libra row in my palette. The characteristics associated with Libras are gracefulness, being very social and diplomatic and fair-minded, which makes sense. They're represented by the scales. Pastel colors are often associated with the Libra. Things like peach, pistachio green, and then pastel blues and lavenders. The colors that I decided to go with, these pastel purpley lavender shades, are also really influenced by the flowers that are associated with the Libra sign, the bluebell and the freesia. I really decided to go in that direction instead of doing a big row of just really pastel soft colors. I really wanted to bring that sense of balance into the colors that I chose for Libra. That's why I decided to do 2 shimmers and 2 mattes, and also why I wanted to do a really light pastel lavendery matte, the shade HEIRESS, as well as a deeper matte shade. In this case, I chose Sleeper. I really felt that those types of shades were necessary for a Libra look to give that sense of balance. I'm gonna go ahead and show you some swatches of the Libra row all together. We have Tickled, HEIRESS, EARTHSHINE, and Sleeper. Next, we have the Gemini row. That's right here in the middle of my palette. Geminis are described as social, curious, versatile, expressive, and kind. So I knew that I needed a really warm, bright selection of shadows. The colors for the Gemini sign are yellow, green, and citrine. That really worked well because I knew I wanted some really bright, happy, friendly colors. So a bright yellow is just such a warm, fuzzy, sort of friendly color to me. I knew that would be perfect for the Geminis. I also chose more mattes for the Gemini row because one of their traits is versatility. So these matte shades could easily pair up with the other shimmers in this palette to create a completely different look. And you can also easily manipulate how light or how deep the look is by using this matte hunter green. You could go for a really smoky eye, or you could just really lightly use it like a liner or completely leave it out for a much lighter, more daytime type of look. So I felt that these shades really gave that warmth, the versatility, that really expressive nature that's associated with the Gemini. So let's take a look at the Gemini row swatch now. We have the shades Issues, Take Flight, Two Birds, and Team Captain. Lastly, the Aquarius row. This was really tough for me because as I was going through this series, so many people were saying, please don't give us just bright blue and turquoise for the Aquarius shadows. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's not up to me to determine the colors that are associated with these signs. I really have to go based off of my research. So I did feel like I really needed to put a blue in here, but I did take some liberties with the Aquarius shades here. Because the Aquarius is described as very deep, very expressive, imaginative, a true original, somebody who's really a humanitarian, just feels and thinks very deeply. I felt like for this sign in particular, I could really go on a more cerebral level and not be quite so literal with the shades, because turquoise, aquamarine, these really bright blue, teal type of colors are typically the shades that are associated with Aquarius, but I didn't really go in that direction. Of course, there is still a blue shade in here. I would really be missing the mark if I didn't put any blue in the Aquarius row, but I really wanted to choose shades that were quite celestial, things that layered really well, had sort of a dreamy quality to them. So I do feel like these shades still fit the Aquarius, even though there's not a bright turquoise or bright teal in here. It is the water bearer, so I wanted to go for sort of a dreamy, watery type of feel. Hopefully my Aquarius friends out here are not disappointed with my shade selection, but I do think it turned out really pretty. I am wearing the Aquarius look on my eyes right now, and I absolutely love the way that it turned out. So let's look at all the Aquarius shades swatched now, and notice that the shade names also kind of fit in with the characteristics of the Aquarius. Now and Zen, Labyrinth, Antimatter, and MR.SANDMAN. Now that we've gone through all the signs and why I chose the shades that I did, let's take a look at the 3 different eye looks I came up with for the Libra, the Gemini, and the Aquarius. Also, a quick disclaimer before we get into these looks. I'm not a makeup artist. I'm not trying to do anything totally groundbreaking. I really like to just play with colors, play with makeup, and do fun looks that anybody could do. That way, if you're watching along with me, you could create these looks too. So if you feel like something isn't perfect or isn't blended or isn't whatever, feel free not to comment, because I know I'm not a makeup artist. I'm just having fun. It's makeup just for fun, people, okay? Okay, thanks. I'm going to be prepping my eyes for all of these eye looks in the exact same way, just like I always do, first with my MAC Painterly Paint Pot, and then setting that base with a little bit of my Next to Nothing powder. Starting off the Libra look with the shade HEIRESS, I'm first going to very lightly apply that into my crease, just so that I get a little bit of a transition here, but I'm going very lightly with this one. Since it is quite cool toned, I don't want to get too bruisey looking. Then using the same shade, I'm packing that on with my finger all over the lid. This is really going to be the base for my look. Then I'm going to take the shade Sleeper, and I'm using a very small detail brush here. This is quite a pigmented shade, so I'm first building that up along my outer part of my lash line on the top lid there, and then really smudging that out and up towards the outer corner of my eye. I'm really just sketching out the placement here because you can always add more, but it's a lot harder to take away. Then using what's left on my brush, I'm just sweeping that along the outer lower lash line. Now I'm going to take the shade Earthshine, using my finger, sort of blending that on top where Sleeper and Heiress were layered to really start to mesh those colors together. Then I went back in with Sleeper to deepen up the area where I had mapped out the dark shades on my eye. Again, being very methodical. I don't want to get too dark too quickly, so I'm just building this Sleeper shade up on top of Earthshine. And then I went back in with a little bit on my finger to blend those shades together. You can see this deepens up really quickly, using just my original creased brush with no additional product to blend. Then for the inner corner highlight, I'm using Tickled just on my finger, tapping that into the inner corner so that I get a nice bright shine there. Curled my lashes and added my CoverGirl Exhibitionist mascara to finish off the Libra look. I think this is one of my favorite looks I've done in this entire series. It's such a perfect balance of mattes, of shimmers, of bright and deep and soft. There's just a little bit of everything here, but it really works well together, and that's exactly what I envisioned for my Libra look. I love this one. I did not want to take this off. Now it's time for the Gemini eye look. Like I said, prepping my eyes in the same way every time, first with my paint pot and then just using a little bit of MAC powder to set that base so it's not too sticky. We're starting off with the shade Issues as the transition shade. This is a nice, soft, warm peachy color, and it does layer up quite nicely. So I'm just building that shade into the crease area so that I can go in with the star of the show, this bright matte yellow shade called Take Flight, and this applies so opaque. I just dotted some on with my finger and then blended out the edge. Next, I'm using Two Birds, again, just using my fingertip to apply that to the outer part of the eye this time. Next, I'm going to go in with Team Captain, this nice matte green, on a flat brush and just smudging that along the outer lash line on both the upper and lower lids for a really smudgy sort of liner look. Then I just curled my lashes, added some CoverGirl Exhibitionist mascara, and that is the finished Gemini look. This is really quick and easy, but it has a high impact. This is the kind of look that I imagine when I think of something that's really warm and friendly and still versatile. You could totally leave out that bright matte yellow that might intimidate some people and just go in with Issues, Two Birds, and a little Team Captain for a super simple everyday type of look, but I really do love the yellow. Lastly, it's time for the Aquarius look. By now you already know the drill for prepping the eye, the paint pot, a little bit of powder, you get it by this point. I'm going to start building a really layered look that begins with this matte shade called Labyrinth. I built this up into the crease and down onto the lid a little bit too. This is not a very precise look. It's all about just going with the flow and feeling what feels right. So I just sort of slapped on some Labyrinth, and I also put that along the lower lash line because I knew I wanted a little bit of a smoky lower lash line. I'm going in with Now and Zen. I will be layering this up some more as well, but I did want a little bit of an inner corner highlight. Now for the lid shades, I'm going to be layering up starting with MR.SANDMAN. I just wanted this look to be a little bit haphazard, almost messy feeling. So I'm going to be doing a lot of mixing and layering. I took the shade Antimatter, and on my finger, I focused this more on the center part of my lid. Then I just went back and forth with Antimatter and MR.SANDMAN, blending that until it just felt right. Then I went back with Now and Zen because I wanted that really, really bright See Me From Space inner corner highlight. Then, just for the finishing touches, I added a little bit more Labyrinth both to the crease and the lower lash line so that it really looked blown out and kind of dreamy, ethereal looking. Curled my lashes, added some CoverGirl Exhibitionist mascara, and that's the finished Aquarius look. This turned out even better than I expected. I had more of a vision for this look than any of the others, and I really feel like it turned out exactly as I imagined it. I wanted it to be a very coloring outside of the lines, multiple layers, multiple facets, a watery, dreamy, just very approachable at the same time type of look, and I think that it turned out perfectly. Now that you've seen all the eye looks, I want to go ahead and show you this palette in its entirety with all the shade names. Now's the time when you should either pause and write down the names or pause and take a screenshot so that you can see what all the shades are in this palette. I'm also going to show you this palette in its entirety swatched on my arm. That way you can really get a feel for this whole air sign color story. I didn't want to go really light and airy and pastel. I wanted to take some inspiration from things like beautiful bright clouds in the sunset and even things like birds or hot air balloons to bring in some of that colorful element while still keeping this palette really user-friendly. One thing that all of these air signs have in common is the social aspect. They're all described as social creatures, humanitarians, friendly. So I wanted this palette to be really user-friendly, but still have that fun, playful, bright side as well. I had so much fun creating this series, and I definitely have some ideas going into the new year for some more BYOP series, but I would also love to hear your thoughts. What kind of BYOP series would you be interested in? What did you think of these looks? Which one was your favorite? I always love to hear what you guys think about things too, so make sure you leave a comment down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! It's gonna be a rough filming week. I sound like Phoebe from Friends when she gets her cold voice. I actually kind of had that thought because I was singing in the car this morning and I was like, man, I can sing some pretty good Pearl Jam today with my raspy voice. Okay. Okay. Hello. Oh no. My voice is not what it should be. Researching each oh boy. Okay. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Let's just get on with it because this voice isn't gonna last long. Can you hear the rain? It's raining a lot. Oh boy. Oh boy. Lastly, what? Help. And at the end of the, what was that even gonna be? What kind of BYOP? What? Thanks, you're the best. What was that? Like finger guns? Who are you? Stop. Okay, bye.